Richician!
Hey YouTube, Richician84 here, and welcome to one of my biggest top 10, top 5 or above lists yet. Actually, the biggest one. I am counting down my top 60, yes, top 60 favourite decks of all time. I've played many decks over the years, but 60 in particular have just stood out the most for me, and I've enjoyed playing them a lot. I mean, obviously I've enjoyed playing all the decks I've played over the years, but these 60 in particular are the ones that stand out. I mean, and I know it's going to be very obvious what the top 3 are. I mean, you can easily guess what they are, but I'm doing this list anyway and showing you guys what else I like. So, without further ado, let's begin. In at number 60, plants, as in pure plants. Yeah, I really enjoyed playing pure plants. It was something I played back in 2009, and hasn't seen much play since, if not hardly any, except when the first Ultimate Championship I did back in 2018. But yeah, but plant decks really interested me a lot back then. I believe it was something that did see competitive play, but I played it just because I genuinely liked the deck. I mean, it was fun running something involving Titanial, Princess of Camellias, Botanical Lion, I think, yeah, and just doing a bunch of cool plays with them. Yeah, it was pretty good, and just generally a lot of fun, and just Lone Fire Blossom. I like that card exists, just attributing a plant within itself to bring out any plant you want. Like, it's great. I only played it for a couple of months though. In fact, I remember trying to sell the core just so I could get Light Swarm cards for my Dark Magic Swarm deck. But obviously making that turned out to be a big mistake. But plants were still fun while it lasted. Number 59, Battling Boxers. One of my 3 favourite Zexal archetypes. I'm usually a big fan of warrior decks, as you know, and Battling Boxers were hella fun. And I did try and do a lot more than just sit behind lead yoke like everyone else did. Sorry, I tripped over my words there, but I wanted to play Star Cestus and Comet Cestus. Comet Cestus being one of my favourite Xyz monsters of all time. That's a lot of fun. Yeah, it was a really nice, cheap budget rank 4 deck. I mean, yeah, Switch Hitter would lock you into Battling Boxer monsters, but it was fine, especially with the addition of Nova Kaiser. That was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I mean, that's really all there is to it. Yeah. Number 58, Vampires. Now, I'm not normally a huge fan of zombie decks nowadays, but Vampires is one that I really like. I do like the Skull Servants as well, but which I've never played though, but I've always liked vampires, particularly Vampire Lord, because classic boss monster from back in the day. It's such a fun card to run in a deck. I remember I did randomly play it in my warrior deck because, well, I was an amateur and didn't know any better. But then later on, I decided to play it in my own zombie deck. In fact, I actually started playing like a vampire deck in 2008. Again, it was just simply a generic zombie deck focusing on Vampire Lord, Vampire's Curse, and even good old Vampire Genesis. And yeah, it was just a ton of fun. And I just liked the ability to be able to get rid of an opponent's spell or trap from the deck with this. I mean, because of course you never ever want to declare monster. I mean, maybe like in the very early days you probably would, but I feel like ever since, well, the late 2000s, I find that declaring monster is generally a bad idea, since there are a lot of decks that rely on the graveyard nowadays. Well, it's been the case for like about a decade and a half now. Yeah, and I even still play Vampire Lord in my vampire deck today. And I actually really loved how in 2013 vampires became a full-on proper archetype. I feel like it's something Konami did catch on to. I even remember Kayla Shade also played a vampire deck back in 2010. But yeah, I love how it got full-on support in Shadow Spectres, and then got more in what's that set called that introduced the Sky Strikers and Fur Hires? I know it had darkness in the name. Fuck, I can't remember. Maybe it'll come to me. Like, wait, was it Dark Saviors? Is that the set I'm thinking of? Yeah. I like that it got more support in that set, and then more support in Battle of Chaos. Of course, I still need to get hold of the zombie vampire, I think. Oh no, wait, I do have a copy already. I can't actually remember if I need to play one or two of it in my vampire deck. I don't know. But I find it pretty saddening that other vampire decks don't even play Vampire Lord. Alright, there may be better cards, but like, Vampire Lord is the reason that archetype was even a thing. Like, it feels criminal just not to play him. I mean, I'm still willing to play 2 copies in my vampire deck. Yeah. Gotta love it all the same. Number 57, Evil Ubel Hero. This was a cool idea for a deck that I came up with in like late 2010, early 2011. Now, I don't know if someone else came up with the idea, but I kind of thought of it because, well, I noticed that all the forms of Ubel are high-level Fiend monsters. Then I looked at Malicious Fiend, which needs like Malicious Edge and a level 6 or higher Fiend. And I feel like it's really cool to just fuse Malicious Edge with any form of Yubel to make Malicious Fiend and just go from there, as well as you do the usual Yubel plays. Of course, the only problem is it's not great using Yubel as a fusion material for Dark Gaia, because depending on what block monster I used, it won't be very strong. But I feel like the deck is even better now because Malicious Bane is a thing, as Yubel also fulfills the category for the level 5 or higher fusion material that you need. And we all know how much of an absolute beast Malicious Bane is, but it was still a great deck. The only problem is it did brick a lot of the time, or at least it did in the early days. It was kind of a problem. This and my Neos Wiseman deck were the weakest hero decks I ever played, but both of them have got so much better over the years. We have a few improvements. The addition of a Dusted Gold, Sinister Necrom and Bane just made this deck a whole lot better. And it's just a lot of fun. The idea of the deck with the Yubels providing defense and the evil heroes providing offense. So it has a good balance of both of them. And it was just so much fun. Number 56, Toons. I never played them back in the day or in later years when Toon Kingdom came out, but then I kind of got really tempted to play them in 2019. I can't remember what tempted me actually. I feel like it might have been videos that the one and only Xylophone did. And obviously this was before we got the support in Toon Chaos, so I made the deck, and pretty cool just playing them, and even sometimes doing the voice of Pegasus and being like, "Welcome to Toon Kingdom." And I'd even sometimes do it when I'd play Comic Hand and be like, "I play Comic Hand and take your monster and turn it into an adorable toon." I also really like that there's a Toon Dark Magician. I mean, I think it's one of those cards that we wondered would ever get a Toon form. Same with a lot of other classic boss monsters like Red Eyes, Blackluster Soldier, Harpy Lady. And of course I just had to pick up a box or two of Toon Chaos and get the Toon support, even though it didn't seem like there was a lot of it. Yeah, it's just annoying that a lot of the cards in there were just so expensive and difficult to get. Like, especially Toon Blackluster Soldier. Like, I dread to think the value of that card. I think the only cheap Toon cards in the set were Toon Harpy Lady and Toon... I forgot the name of the trap card that negates everything. I should know this since I've been playing it again recently. Oh yeah, Toon Terror, that was it. The problem with Toons though is that they're just bricky and inconsistent. Like, you either open the absolute nuts, or you just don't draw into Toon Kingdom, or any way to search it, and then struggle big time. It's really hard to play the deck and even win if I don't see Toon Kingdom. It's annoying because there's like 8 to 11 ways to search it, and it's just annoying that I don't see any of them. And it's like, well, this is gonna go down the drain quite quickly. But other than that, tunes are pretty fun, and especially if you talk in the Pegasus voice. Number 55, Elemental Hero Divine Neos. Divine Neos is a really cool hero boss monster. Taking any hero Neos and Neospatian or Neospace monsters to make it, and just copying their effects in the grave and gaining attack points. It's just a lot of fun to do. At first it was kind of difficult to make a deck based around him. I did find a way to do it, which is just basically play it as the competitive generic hero deck. As I was saying before my battery died, excuse me. Yeah, it was just basically the generic hero deck, only with Neos and Neospatian monsters thrown in. I felt like it was a good way to play the deck, and it made it pretty easy to set up for Divine Neos, actually. Problem is, a lot of the time I'd keep doing the generic hero plays that the deck does, which, to be honest, just gets boring and tedious, and it feels like I'm not even playing Divine Neos. Like, sometimes I would, but other times I just do the boring, predictable, usual plays, and maybe win too easily. And that's why I did kind of get a bit bored of playing the deck. But it's still one of my favourites, which I'm happy to play every once in a while. It's just a lot of fun, all the same. And I even like how I added in, like, the Neo Bubble Man and the Neos Wise Man. There's great fun just banishing them and copying their effects with this card. And there's lots of different ways to get those two cards into the graveyard. I don't think I've actually yet copied Neo Bubbleman's effect yet, but I have copied Neos Wise Man's with this card. And my god, it's so fun and satisfying just seeing this bad boy do a ton of damage. It's just great. Number 54, Sky Scourge Karibo. Now, I don't know if anyone else thought of the idea, but I did back in 2010. Because I feel like both archetypes do complement each other really, really well. As yeah, the Karibos usually consist of dark fiends and light fairies. Sky Scourge monsters require me to banish light fairies and dark fiends from grave to summon them. So again, it's like a similar idea to what I had with Evil Bell here, just using the Karibos for defense and the Sky Scourges for offense. Obviously the Sky Scourges aren't as strong as the Envoys, which is what they're based on, but they're still pretty good. It's a ton of fun to get out onto the field. I do have a couple of fond memories where I'd use these against Shieldwing David's Stormwings and Brian's Heraldic Beasts. I mean, it was a more even match with David's Stormwings. He usually just stalls with that deck. Sometimes goes on the offensive, but this forced him to make some more aggressive plays, which is great. Even after sending everything to the grave with more las. And then of course there was that funny memory against Brian's Heraldic Beasts, where I think I summoned Norlaz, or summoned Phantom of Chaos and copied Norlaz's effect, sent everything, and then top decked into Endrise and launched an attack. And then what does he top deck? Advanced Heraldry, and just gets out an Exodia too, and just wrecks me. It's like, wow, you actually topped that in this situation? Even though I lost that match, it was just a lot of fun. I have been working on rebuilding this deck on Edo Pro, but I'm trying to think whether or not I want to play the newer Karibo cards that we got in Brothers of Legend, but I'm not too sure. Again, this deck is bricky and inconsistent, but it's fun, and that's all that matters. Number 53, Destiny Heroes. One of my favourite GX archetypes. Obviously, big fan of heroes, including the Destiny ones. They've been fun to play in the years, well, more so in the earlier years when they didn't rely on extra deck plays, and the focus would be Dreadmaster, Dogma and Plasma. It wasn't competitive by any means, but it was still lots of fun, especially when I'd bust out Dogma, my favourite Destiny hero, and just beat the opponents down with it and make them lose half their life points after it's summoned. Unfortunately though, I've been losing a bit of interest in the deck and just getting bored of it, because it feels like all they ever do now is just summon, destroy a Phoenix Enforcer and just make the opponents struggle a lot, since it's not an easy fusion to overcome. But to be fair, like, I think I would much rather be stuck behind DPE than Dragoon any day. Don't really agree with anyone who says that DPE is worse. I mean, yeah, it is annoying, but at least it's not a negate. Like, I would much rather be stuck behind a monster that pops a card at any time on either player's turn than a monster that negates everything and has fuck all weaknesses. But all the same though, it just gets kind of boring after a while, and I know how frustrating it is to be stuck behind DPE. I feel like it even got a bit too good even before then, with the fusion plays involving dominance. Like, I think even when the only fusions were Dystopia, Dusktopia and Dangerous, like, the deck was perfectly fine and still fun to play against. But then I feel like, well, it's just not the same anymore. But I do still use old school strategies in my Destiny era deck. I still have Diamond Dude, I still play Dreadmaster and Clock Tower Prison, because I did want some of the original Destiny hero cards in there and still have an old-fashioned strategy, but most of the time I feel like I'm just overwhelming the opponent too much with DP and dominance. But still, it's still one of my favourite GX archetypes all the same, and it's still worthy of being on this list. Number 52, Raid Raptors, one of my favourite Raids archetypes. I mean, Shay is like a favourite character. Wait, did I say Brains? I meant Arc 5. one of my favourite Arc 5 characters. He's such a badass, and the Raid Raptors look really cool, especially Revolution Falcon. Yeah, I mean, it's just generally a cool archetype, basically the Ixie's counterpart to Blackwings. I particularly like overwhelming the opponent with Revolution Falcon, my favourite Raid Raptor. Weakening special summoned monsters, doing a ton of damage with it. Of course, I know not everyone likes Raid Raptors because, well, Ultimate Falcon exists. I mean, I get that. I mean, yeah, Ultimate Falcon's a card I'm happy to use myself, but I know how annoying it is being on the receiving end of it, just weakening monsters or doing 1,000 burn damage with it, along with the fact that it's unaffected by card effects, but you know, it's not impossible to overcome. I mean, I generally try not to rely on Ultimate Falcon, but too many situations just call for it. There is also the option of going into Arc Rebellion Xyz Dragon, which is also an absolute beast, but I'd rather just win my Raid Raptor games with Revolution Falcon, or its other form, Revolution Falcon Air Raid. It's just more fun. But again, it's one of those archetypes that I tend to get bored of playing. It feels like they're just too good, and it's just, it can be too easy to win games with. It's awkward, because like sometimes I get bored of it and stop playing it. Other times I just miss running the deck and want to play them again. Of course, that might be hard to do in real life since I sold my Raid Raptor core to George. It's something I have yet to rebuild on Edo Pro as well. I don't know if I'll play them again in real life unless I ask George if I can borrow it for a game. But yeah, even though it's not my top favourite Arc 5 archetype, the top one will come later, it's still a fun deck to play all the same. Number 51, Exodia, the first proper deck I ever played. Because first it was my random deck, then it was Exodia. Now, normally I don't like troll decks, but Exodia and Destiny Board are the only ones I do like. Exodia in particular, because, to be fair, it is technically a classic boss monster. And obviously I'm a big fan of classic boss monsters. At least there was some level of skill to obtaining it. I mean, you have to agree, like, Exodia decks take more skill than stalling burn and deck out decks. Well, not so much the Exodia Blue Eyes FTK, like, that's the only Exodia and Blue Eyes deck that I hate with a passion and don't like, because fuck FTK decks. I prefer to play Exodia the old-fashioned way, just using Messenger of Peace, Wobaku and Threatening Gore to keep me safe from attacks, and just using Emissary of the Afterlife, Witch and Sangan to float for the Exodia pieces when they go to the graveyard. It's something I've always liked. It dips in and out of my list of active decks. Still need to play it again, because I brought it out again because it's an original series archetype that I've yet to use in some games in honour of Kazuki Takahashi. Yeah, there's not much else I can say about it really. And that is it for the first 10. Yeah, this will be in 6 parts, by the way. I'm doing 10 decks per part, so this has been part 1. Hope you enjoyed. Stay tuned for part 2. Catch you shortly. Where's the off button? Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the Dark Richician YouTube channel.